Go through a few halachos that are relevant. One is go through halachos first, and then we'll get into what we can take out of Purim. It's just a few halachos that we have Tainus Esther coming up. We know Tainus Esther is one of the most cool Dika Tainuses. You know, we make all the most on Tainus Esther if someone has an issue. But there's one part which I would say is probably one of the hardest Tainusim. That is that the halacha is that one does not eat till after the Megillah at night. Because there's halacha, like before every mitzvah that we do, we're very makbid not to eat before partaking in that mitzvah. Because once you sit down and eat, you may forget to do the mitzvah. And for some reason, by Megillah, we're very makbar on this, and one doesn't eat until, because of the Chavivas mitzvah, because it's a Drabanan, we don't eat anything until after the Kriyas Megillah. That means a person's fasting the whole day. This is true even if he wasn't fasting the whole day, right? This would be, let's say, Purim would be Matzah Shabbos like last year, which you could eat the whole Shabbos. But as soon as Shabbos is over, you can't eat until the Megillah, you finish eating the Megillah. You're not supposed to eat before the Megillah is over. So, but by a Tainus, it makes it a little harder, because you're fasting the whole day, and you're tired and this, and now, until Megillah is over and you get home, especially the wives, if they have to go hear the second Megillah, so they can't eat till after the second Kriyas Megillah. So this could pose an issue. So obviously, if one has a problem, you know, he's not feeling well and needs to eat, he could have a te'ima. A te'ima is to drink. You could have fruit, or you could eat less than a kabeya, or a kabeya. You could eat a kabeya of cake or something like that. But and if it's really needed, you could eat more. For a person sick, you could eat as much as he has to eat. But even if a person's not sick and he really needs it, he doesn't feel he could hang out, so he could have a te'ima. But if he could, if he's not weak and he's feeling fine, he should not eat anything until after the Kriyas Megillah. This is halacha. It's one of the chumas we have on Tainus Esther, even though the fast itself is more kuladik. The other common questions that come up are regarding, first of all, the laning of the Megillah. One should try very hard to get it in the minyan, even if he's at work and he has to come home late. You know, he should hear it b'tzibur. He should try very hard to get Kriyas Megillah with a tzibur for Pasumei Nisa. If he can't, then he could hear it by himself also. He could hear. But a person should try very hard to get the Megillah laning. There should be a minyan together. There is a halacha of roiv am hadras melech. So even if he could have a minyan in his house, or he could go to shul, he should go to shul to hear the Megillah publicly, because b'roiv am, the more people that are together, makes it more exciting and more covered and more Pasumei Nisa. So therefore we try to everybody to gather together to hear the Kriyas Megillah. That's the part of Megillah. The other common questions is, you know, Matanas Avyonim. There's two mitzvahs of the day. One is Matanas Avyonim, which is a person should give tzedakah, should give, besides Meiser, this is not including his Meiser money during the year, he should give special Matanas Avyonim on Purim, which is machlokes how much. Either it's just a pruta, l'chatchila he should give more than a pruta, he should give the amount for a meal, which is maybe a Danish and a coffee. A couple of dollars is enough to be considered, but you have to give for 2 aniyim.
How much is a pruta?
Pruta, that's a good question. Maybe 8 cents, maybe 6 cents. It's not a lot. So you can be yoked with that, but the Yevet. But some of the Ritfalls like that. But other Rishonim hold you have to give enough for the person to have a meal. A meal is a Danish and a coffee, whatever you go to the shop, how much it costs, a couple of bucks. And you should give to 2 aniyim, 2 poor people, that amount. There's halacha kol haposhit yad noisun loy. That means that you don't have to check what's on his with those papers they come along with all year. You're not mechuyev to give ani unless you know he's legitimate. You go to the Gabbai Tzedakahs over here; they're supposed to check him out. but on Purim we don't question his background. We give to anybody who comes around. Kol haposhit yad, and this is we ask Hashem for a lot of things, and Hashem could check us out. Could check out if we deserve it. We don't, you know. Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing during the year? Are we legitimate? So on Purim, we could ask Hashem for whatever we want. He's not checking us out. He'll give us if we ask. That's the concept of Kol HaPoshev Yad goes to Rebbeinu Shalom also. Shalach Manas also, you're only mechuyev to send Shalach Manas to one person, not mechuyev to send Shalach Manas to more than one person. Obviously, the more you do is mar bereyos, it brings friendship, but you don't have to go bankrupt on that. And you have to make sure you have one kosher Shalach Manas, and the rest is a hider. But you don't have to, the ladies especially, they how much Shalach Manas could one person make? They have to make for everybody. It could get quite difficult. So some people send out cards. You're not Yotzei Shalach Manas with the cards. You have to know if you're Yotzei Matzanos Avyodim with that. But at least if you give one Shalach Manas, and the Shalach Manas should be according to the person. In other words, if you're sending it to a rich person, you can't be Yotzei sending a couple of jelly beans. That's not befitting. According to some shittas, you're not even Yotzei with that. You have to send to the person what he could use, what he would be considered a bunch of things. Depending who you're sending to, that's what you send. So one Shalach Manas you could do right. The rest you can send out your jelly beans. It doesn't really matter.
You mentioned cards, you mentioned cards.
Cards. So that if you Yotzei Shalach Manas already, and you don't want to make 100 Shalach Manas, so if you want to give send cards in lieu of Shalach Manas, I made a gift to
some organization.
Yeah.
But you have to still make two proper ones. Two Shalach Manas.
One Shalach Manas.
One Shalach Manas, proper one.
One Shalach Manas with 2 foods in it, proper. Yeah. One Shalach Manas proper. If you want to be Yotzei Matzanos Avyodim with the cards, you have to make sure that they're giving it to an ani on Purim. You can't be Yotzei Shalach Manas. You have to be careful, especially in Eretz Yisrael. There's no question if I send money to Eretz Yisrael, we keep Purim on the 14th day, and they keep Purim on the 15th day. If they're not getting, if I send it on the 14th day, they get it on the 15th day. It could be the Shiloh of the Yotzei, but there's plenty of other places in Eretz Yisrael where they keep 14th. Definitely, if you're in Eretz Yisrael on the 15th day and you give money on the 14th day to someone chutzah, but sure not Yotzei. From the 14th to the 15th is a Shiloh if that's enough. But the point is that ani has to get the money on Purim. It's called Mois Purim. He gets the money for preferably for the Suda of Purim. That's what he's getting the money for. The collection is made for that, and he gives it. He can use it for whatever he wants, but that's what it's for. Any other questions on these topics?
But if you buy those cards today, you've already paid for that.
You already paid for it, but they hold it for you.
Right.
They work it out. They hold it for you until then, and they give it out on Purim. There's a question. Someone asked if he gives the Yad, the Binyamin things, whatever they call those papers, Yotzei with that, because they have to give cash. He has to go in and he has to cash it in by the. He has to go cash it in by the place, and if he doesn't do that on Purim. Question is, are you Yotzei with that? Make sure you give a few dollars, to a few aniyim. There's plenty that come around. You can be Yotzei with that, if not collections or shumei installations. This is what to do. Someone that's not someone that can't survive the year without tzedakah is ani. He has to be able to have panasa for the year. Someone who doesn't have a proper job and he can't survive the year is considered an ani. Doesn't have to the brisker, find a guy that's in rags, that's a Evian. You give to someone that's in need, that person needs help to get through the year. That's considered ani. I want to speak about our topic here on Purim, which I spoke about at Eish a little bit a few weeks ago, but I find it very fascinating, this topic. There's a lot to speak about. I'll just bring it out a little bit as it's relevant to Purim. If we would ask, what could we take away from Purim? Like the most important thing we could walk away from Purim. We think about how Hashem answered our tefillas, the rizakas, the reitzumas, v'zakasam. We say the Megillah that how important it is that we daven. Hashem answers us. He could get us out of every problem that we're in. Everybody has problems that they need salvation for. So Purim is the time to daven. It's one thing we take out of Purim. The miracle, how it was hidden, and even today there are miracles going on. But there's one aspect which seems to be extremely fascinating that almost doesn't fit into our hashkafa, which is, we find that Chazal says, Moidar Rabbaloi Raisa, when Klal Yisrael was makabel the Torah, when Klal Yisrael accepted the Torah on Har Sinai, Chazal say, well, they were forced to take the Torah. Hashem pick up the mountain, put it over their heads, and says, accept the Torah. And they accepted it. They didn't have a choice. We know they said Nasa v'nishma. We know they said Nasa v'nishma. So, they say Nasa v'nishma. Were they forced? But we know they were forced. They were forced to take the Torah. And we find that until Purim time, the Gemara says, Hodu kiblu b'mei Achashverosh, that at the end of the Megillah it says, Kimu v'kiblu. And it means that they were makabel on themselves the Torah. They accepted the Torah willingly accepted the Torah after the miracle of Purim. Now, first of all, it's interesting, like, okay, Purim is a nice miracle, you know. Throughout the generations, we had plenty of people that were out to get us. You know, and the Purim is a nice miracle. Maybe it was a very important miracle. But, okay, from the time the Torah was given, we didn't accept it willingly until Purim came along. Okay, it's an interesting point. But to compound the matter, it's almost like, I hate to use the word, it almost sounds heretical. I mean, how is it possible that the Klal Yisrael didn't accept the Torah fully when the Torah was given? And they first accepted it when Achashverosh came out. All these years, we had David HaMelech, you had the Nevi'im. You can imagine what was going on. Moshe, Yeshua, Zakeh, you know, it was... And, no, they didn't take the Torah willingly until the Purim night. Yeah, by the Purim night, now they accepted the Torah, and it's fascinating. I mean, it's something which is almost hard to understand.
But that means the Betei HaMikdash didn't count either. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, they accepted the Torah. They just it wasn't baratzin, it was ba'inus. So, well, what does that mean? Now the Mefarshim talk about it. They really accepted the Torah Shebeksav. The Torah Shebal Peh was forced. Shebeksav they accepted willingly. That was Nasa v'nishma. Torah Shebal Peh they were forced on it because it's in order for a person to understand Torah Shebal Peh, he has to go to Shiurim all his life. There's no end. Torah Shebeksav, it's still bound in one chumash here. You know, it's very neatly bound. You go through the Torah Shebeksav. There's a beginning. There's an end. We could accept it. As difficult as it is, we could accept it. Torah Shebal Peh, you're never finished. You can learn all your life. There's still so much more to know. And we keep it all, you know? When we get into it, we understand it. So that was a little too much for them to accept. So they accepted it forcefully, but they weren't willingly accepted until Achashverosh's time. But it's something which is so fascinating, I think we have to delve into it a little bit. And it could very well be that this may be the main thrust of Purim. Because, you know, a lot of things we don't understand about Purim, we get shikar. Yeah, we do it because they had a party of wine. There's always wine going on there with Achashverosh, Vashti, and, you know, and Mishta Yayim. But, you know, there's nothing that's not hidden there in the Megillah. But, you know... So, I want to go through a little history here first. I spoke about an Eish, when I was there, I spoke about an Eish a few weeks ago. So I mentioned something I heard from Rabbi Yaakov Hillel. Yaakov Hillel said also a fascinating observation. That most things we say, you know, Niskatnu Hadoros, we say that we're much smaller than the previous generations. I mean, we're tiny. The Gemara says, in Rishonim are like Malachim, Anu Kibnei Adam. The earlier generations were like angels, we're people. If the earlier generations were people, Anu Kechamorim, we're like donkeys, V'loi Kechamorim Shel Pinchas Ben Yair. We're not even like the donkey of Pinchas Ben Yair. I hope Gemara has a story about his donkey. But in other words, I remember I was learning in Brisk, and someone put out a book about the machlokes between the Briskara, the Beis HaLevi, and the Netziv, what went on in Volozhin. Yeah, there was a little history there. I'm not going to go into it now, but it was fascinating. You know, the give and take there. But meanwhile, in the Beis Medrash, they had people standing there to make sure that they learned around the clock, 24 hours. They learned through the night also. There shouldn't be any batola throughout this machlokes between them and stuff. But anyways, he was explaining the whole thing. So Rabbi David Soloveitchik got up and he said, imagine if a donkey is walking between two people, and the donkey says, this person is thinking like this, and that person over there is thinking a little different. We look at what does the donkey understand? So he says, in Rishonim Kamalachim, if we're trying to psychoanalyze we can learn from them, but to psychoanalyze exactly all the motives is going a little too far. But so we go Niskatnu Adoris, we're much less than the previous generations. And yet we find that there are certain things which first came out in the later generations. For one, the entire Torah Shabbal Peh, the way we have it today, the written Torah Shabbal Peh, when did it start? You go in the Mishnayos, it started from the Shimon HaTzadik, on the Rambam and Akdama. It started from Shimon HaTzadik and his Talmid and Anshe Knesset Zakdoila, to Zugais, it went down to the Tanoim. You don't find, generally speaking, you won't find the Gemara quoted from from one of the Nevi'im, he said the halachos like this, or you won't find generally quoted, Yeshua ben Nun said like this, and Moshe Rabbeinu said like, you find it's all in the Tanoim. It's all the Mishas from the Tanoim, and it's written in the Amoraim, and the whole expanding of the Torah Shabbal Peh, the way we have it today, was basically from the period in the second Beis HaMikdash. Before that, it was non-existent. And if anyone was interested, I'm not going to have the time to go through it all. The Netziv, and his Akdama to the Hemik Shela, the Akdama has a beautiful writing, exactly how the Messiah of Torah Shabbal Peh went, and why it was different in Eretz Yisrael. It was more clear. We'll get into a little bit, but he has a beautiful write-up on this to explain this issue a little bit. But it's fascinating. Torah Shabbal Peh, the way we have it, is a fairly, we'll call it new, it's a few thousand years, but it's fairly new in the Jewish history. You had 2,000 years earlier where it wasn't there, the way we have it. And more than that, Kabbalah, which we're not going to get into so much, but Kabbalah, when did that come about? Yeah, we know Shimon ben Yochai was a Tana, right? The whole Zohar is based on Shimon ben Yochai, but the Zohar wasn't around. It wasn't around. It came out in the times of Rishonim. And it was still not really out until later generations, till the Arizal came out and explained more. You had the Ravid, you had Rabbi Yitzchak Saginor, you had different Rishonim who kept the Kabbalah very secret, but it didn't come out. The expanding of the Torah HaKabbalah came out much later. And it's something which defies the logic of our Jewish nation, which is the Torah, we know a minute amount to what the previous generations knew. And yet we have our hands on so much more Torah that was ever out there. And understanding this lies the understanding of how the Kiblu of Yimei Achashverosh, why they re-accepted the Torah Shabbal Peh, was first started then. I'm going to quote for you a few things here. Down here, but first I'll quote to you the famous Pirkei HaYacholos of Rabbi Shmuel. Pirkei HaYacholos was written by Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol. It's a medrash, and he writes like this: Omer Rabbi Shmuel says, Kach Omer Rabbi Akiva Mishum Rabbi Elazar HaGadol. From the time that Torah was given to, I'm going to say it in English now, from the time the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael until the building of the second Beis HaMikdash, Torah Nitra, the Torah was given. Haval Hadara v'Yikra, its Hadar, its beauty, Hadar and its preciousness, Kvoida, its honor, V'Gdulasa, and its greatness, V'Tefarta, Emosa, its fear, Pachdasa, V'Yirasa, Oishra, its wealth, V'Gavasa, its grandeur, V'Ga'oina, Zayasa, V'Zivasa, Uza, V'Azuza. It goes on a lot of descriptions over here. Memshalta, its total rule. V'Gvurasa, its strength. Loi Nitnu was not given. Ad Shenivne Abayis HaAchron. V'Chulu, missing some words here. But the Gneziyas, but the Atzroisai, the hidden treasures. Ein kol davar chasam mikem. There's nothing that's not given over to you. Tell me what you want, V'yitnochem will give to you. The tavas nafshechem, the will of your heart, miyat tasa will be done. Ki ein eis ka eis hazois, ve'ein zman ka zman hazai. This is Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol talking about. There's no time like now. He says, quoting what Hashem is saying over him, sorry. And he says, it goes on and on. Torah meruba atzmach, want a lot of Torah. B'amoy Talmud v'Shmois. Chulu goes on and on. So the description of Torah study, and then he says, "Well, also alibi litnu l'chol." So it wasn't Hashem speaking. It wasn't given in my heart to give it to all generations. Hashem Moshe v'Arachshav, from the time of Moshe until today. L'dor zeh, to this generation it was hidden to use at soif kol adoros, till the end of all days. Val zeh nemer, on this the pasuk states, Godol yeh kavod ha'bayis ha'achron. Greater is the second Beis Hamikdash than the Rishon, than the first one. For this reason. Now, this is written in context that like this. We know before the Nes Purim they wanted to build a second Beis Hamikdash. And they started building it. In Koresh Rishon they started building it. Achashverosh came around, there was a sitting there were people that from the Amalekim, they didn't want the Yidden to build it, and they stopped it. And so it was stopped until the second Koresh Yavish, until after Achashverosh's son, Esther's son, allowed them to build it. When they went to build the Beis Hamikdash, they said, "We don't want to build a second Beis Hamikdash. We don't want to build it." Klal Yisrael said, "It's not worth it. It's not worth our effort. You know, the first Beis Hamikdash, we were free men. We had our own country. We were building it on our own. Gewaltig. The second Beis Hamikdash, the first Beis Hamikdash had nisim going on all the time. You know, the different miracles that were taking place. That you walked into Beis Hamikdash, you saw miracles. You saw the smoke went through, straight up. You saw different miracles took place. And the second Beis Hamikdash, the miracles weren't going to be there, and they knew it. And they were still under control. I mean, even though they were in the land, they were in Eretz Yisrael, but they were still controlled by other nations. They didn't want to build a second Beis Hamikdash. Until they were promised, no, there's a purpose of building a second Beis Hamikdash. Because Torah Shebaal Peh is going to be built during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. And most of it is for Hanukkah. Most of it started in the period of Hanukkah and on. Shimon HaTzadik, down the Tanam and Aram, that happened halfway through the second Beis Hamikdash in the period of Hanukkah. But the promise that they got for Torah Shebaal Peh was in the time of building of the second Beis Hamikdash, and this coincides with the period that Nevuah ended. This was the end of Nevuah. Chagi, Zechariah, Malachi were the last Nevi'im. This was the end period of Nevuah. Nevuah was over, and now we're starting a new period in Jewish history. That's the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, and there's a time Hashem said, you build the second Beis Hamikdash. You know why? Because through it I'm going to give you Torah Shebaal Peh, which we have. What does this mean? What this means is like this. What this means is that there's a period in history which is called the period of openness. Things are very clear, very set up and very clear. We knew right from wrong. We knew exactly what was going on. A person had a question, he went to the Navi told him you should do X, Y, Z. That's what you should do. It was a period of Gilui, everything was open. You had an issue, you went to the Beis Hamikdash, you could get Nevuah, you could speak to a Navi, you can't speak to Hashem. And that's what we call Torah Shebiksav. Torah Shebiksav means everything is very clear. It says in the Torah exactly what it is, and everybody knew. We didn't need Torah Shebaal Peh as much. Everything was clear. And this is also what we call it was forced upon us. What means it was forced upon us means that it's like we went out of Mitzrayim, we got to Torah. What's the lesson we learned out of Mitzrayim? So Avodim. We're Avdei Hashem. We're servants of Hashem. We used to be servants of Paroi. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. Now we learn to be servants of Hashem. We submit ourselves to Hashem's will. We willingly, Nasa v'nishma, Klal Yisrael said Nasa v'nishma. We willingly submit ourselves to Hashem's will. Great. That was Torah Shebiksav. We know what we're supposed to do. It says Torah Shebiksav. Hashem wants X. We submit ourselves to do X. Other people say, there's a Yetzer Hara to do Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah? No, Torah says don't do Avodah Zarah. It's very clear. Everybody knows Avodah Zarah is wrong. Everybody knows Torah is right. The question is, there was a big Yetzer Hara to do Avodah Zarah during the whole first base of Mikdash. There was a war to do Avodah Zarah, and these things, Menashe said that if you were living in our time, you would roll up your kapota, you wear the Rabban, roll up the kapota and run through the mud to do Avodah Zarah, because of the Yetzer Hara. But everybody knew it was wrong. It was wrong. That was a period of openness. Hashem was out there clear, the Avodah Zarah was out there clear, the person has Bechira, there was a choice, he chose. If he did the right thing, he chose to be subservient to Torah Shabbat. That was the period until the second Beis HaMikdash. From the point of Purim, that changed. There is a fascinating lesson. I'm going to say it over here. It's a fascinating lesson. The lesson makes an observation. Fascinating observation. He says, we know Moshe Rabbeinu made a miracle. He split the Red Sea. Wonderful miracle. The whole Torah is based on these miracles almost. The miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim. We believed in Hashem. Hashem took us out, and he went to Har Sinai. He split the Red Sea. We find other miracles throughout Nach. Eliyahu Hanavi was Machayim Mason. He brought this. He brought a mace alive. He said, Elisha said, I want to have your powers. Elisha was his Talmud. He says he wants to have his powers. He wants to have double his powers. So the Gemara goes through a whole cheshbon. How did he have double his powers? Eliyahu Hanavi says, if you're there, one time I go up to Shemayim, you'll be able to have double my powers. It's not for our discussion how that worked. How a Talmud can have more than the Rebbe. But he managed to get double, and he was able to make alive two people. You read the Gemara, it's Purim time. You read the Gemara says, Rabbi and Rabbi Zera had a Purim Suda, and they got a little drunk. Or maybe they shouldn't be on kosher too. They got a little drunk. Come, Rabbi v'shachter Rabbi Zera. He killed Rabbi Zera. He killed Rabbi Zera, and then he got sober. He said, oh my, what did I do? So he's Machayim Mesim. You have countless of Gemaras where they made golems, they were Machayim Mesim, they killed people. That's Amaram. Read the Gemara. Amaram. That there were Machayim Mason people. You have a Gemara of Pinchas ben Yair, where he's walking and there was a river in his way, and he was going to do Pidyon Shvuyim, and he says, River, split for me. The river didn't want to. He said, you have to split for me. So he split, and then there was an Arab walking by. He says, have a little, respect, and wait for the Arab that's coming along, and stay split for him. The Leshem says, if you go through the Gemara, you see fascinating power the Tanam and Amaram had. And yet, you look in the Chumash, you find that these are miracles. Whoa, this is it. It's done one time in a lifetime. Now, Eliyahu Hanavi did it. And all of a sudden, we find by the Amiram, he gives countless of examples. I think he brings it in here. He brings countless of examples how we find in Gemara that the Amiram did fascinating feats.
But never all for whole Klal Yisrael.
And they weren't done for Klal Yisrael either. They were just done for himself.
The whole Klal Yisrael walked through the Yam Suf, though. It's not the same.
They say it's a bigger miracle. Yeah, but the purpose was for Klal Yisrael. Here, Pinchas ben Yair is one person, on his wall. Okay, split, Split it up, let's go.
Didn't want to get his feet.
You have Rabbi Zera. Gemara says Rabbi Zera was bodet kol yom. Every day he fasted for 40 days before he moved to Eretz Yisrael. He made an aliyah. He did it right. He said, I'm going to Eretz Yisrael. I have to, in the words of Gemara, forget all the Torah I learned in the Bible. I have to learn a new Torah of Eretz Yisrael. Also not for now to speak, but he fasted for 40 days, and every day he tested himself on the fire. He put his hand and the finger on the fire, and he would see if he get burnt. If he didn't get burnt, that means he was still holding on his darga. Okay? Avram Avinu went into the Kibshana. Hey, she didn't get burnt. Well, Hanani, Mishael, Vazariah. Here we have Amiram. It's not the only one. There are other Amiram. We have Marzutra, Marukva, that gave the tzedakah, and then he jumped into the furnace with his wife. Right? And they didn't get burnt. And you have Reb Zera, the Gemara said they called him Cotton Chorach Nura, the short one that was burnt. He got singed. His clothing got singed, the Gemara says, because of something. It was on the fire. So we're talking about people of, when I say Rishonim Kamalachim, I mean these people are great. But yet, how do we understand? How do we understand this? And it's very important for us to understand this today, because we'll see soon. Because there's so much Torah out there today. There's so much. You have the internet today. Torah is so much out there. The availability of Torah is so much there, much more than previous generations. There's much more Torah available for the simple layman, or for even the Rabbanim. much more than the previous generations. Previous generations, you wanted to know Torah, you had to fast 40 days. You had to work your brains out to get it. Today, on your fingertips. You got to work a little bit to understand it, but not the amount they had to work then. We have to understand what's going on, and the basic change took place on Purim. We're going to explain this, but this is the Leshem's observation. The Leshem's observation is, why is it that earlier, in the time of Tanakh, miracles were, miracles. They were taken with the right respect. And at the time of the Gemara, Kalach or Yad, they just had a way to do it. And the Leshem's answer is this. His answer is, we're going to explain it a little bit according to Tzaddik HaKohen. I'm going to end with that. But the Leshem's answer is, the difference is, Torah Sheba'al Peh was given by Purim time. Torah Sheba'al Peh was given the second Beis HaMikdash, and once they have Torah Sheba'al Peh, the relationship changed. I'll explain what this is. So we were saying that in the first Beis HaMikdash, they had what we'll call the time. They had Torah Sheba'al Peh, but it was in the context of Torah Sheba'al, which means things were open, and we were like avodim. We were like servants to Hashem. That's the relationship we have. We submitted ourselves to the will of the Rebbeinu Shalom. And we did it. Now, Tzaddik HaKohen says that the power we have today with Torah Sheba'al Peh is that it's our Torah. We make a bracha before we learn Torah. The Gemara says after you learn Torah, it's not a delay. It's coming out from us. There are 600,000 letters in the Torah. There are 600,000 people in Klal Yisrael, general count. There's fragments. There's 2 million about. Usually there's about 2 million Orthodox Jews in the world. Generally speaking, throughout the generations, there's about 12 million Jews. But there's a reason for everything. But the bottom line is that there's certain, every person has his input to Torah. Torah is not the word of God and I follow. Torah is what lies within me, what's brought out from me. Every person who is born is given a certain amount. His neshama, it's my Torah. What I learn is my chiddush. The concept I come up with, the thoughts I come up with, are my thoughts. It's a fascinating concept. Other religions, you don't have this. There's the word of God, and you follow. By us, it's not like that. Every aspect of Judaism has to be with our input. If it's not our input, it doesn't matter anymore. The mitzvahs have to be our mitzvahs. We're doing the mitzvahs with our love and our devotion. It has to be ours. We become great when we do the mitzvahs. We become great when we learn the Torah. When we learn the Torah, the Gemara says, Abaya says this, Rava says this. Who cares who said it? I mean, very nice. It was an Abaya and an Rava, but that's quite a few years later. And who cares who said it? If Abaya said it or Rava said it. I mean, where do we learn out? You have to say something in the name of a person that says it. We learn it out from Megillah. Mordechai said over, Esther said over for Mordechai that bits in the Serish. We learn over, that's the Gemara learns over. You have to say over the Gemara in the name of the person that said it. We learn from there. Maybe Gula Island. But there's a reason we learn out of the Purim story. Everything, what a person learns, it's not Hashem's Torah. Hashem said it, that's the Torah, I'm following it. It's not how we look at it. We look at it that we are learning the Torah, and it's coming out from my neshama, from me. This is how I understand what I'm learning. This is Torah delay, becomes his Torah. And this is a relationship of a father with a son. Bonim. Bonim matem l'Hashem alekechem. The Torah Sheba'al Peh is what goes within us. Torah Sheba'al is what's open, I gotta follow it. Torah Sheba'al Peh is hidden. It's not open. I gotta figure it out myself. I gotta spend hours breaking my head, figuring it out. And when I figure it out, I say, I got a chiddush. I know pshat. This is what I'm supposed to do. That's Torah Shabbat Peh. I figured out myself. I have help, I have Rabbi, I have this, there's a Messiah. But, you learn how to learn. You have to learn how to go about it. But I understand it, I understand the concept. When I understand it, it becomes mine. And that is Torah. This is what Tzaddik HaKohen says. In a nutshell. I'm saying it briefly, but that's what he says over. And this concept is only possible when things aren't so clear. When things are very clear, everybody knows they have to do the right thing. Malachim, for example, the angels are upstairs. They all know in the morning they have to go say Shvach to Hashem. They'll never do wrong. They'll never do wrong because they don't have a choice. They see it very clearly. If you're standing in a place where everything is so clear and open, and you know you got to do this, you do it. Finished. Do it. You're forced to do it. Doesn't mean I'm forced to do it. I want to do it, but I'm forced to do it. Conceptually, I'm forced to do it. I know this is a true thing. I have to do it. That's Torah Shabbat. When we went into Golus, we knew everybody in Eretz Yisrael on time in the first base of Mikdash. They knew what was right, what was wrong. They knew where the Rebbeinu Shalom was, and they knew where he wasn't. They had a choice to keep the mitzvah or not, but when they kept it because they knew that was the correct thing. They went into Golus. They went into Bavel. Life changed forever until Mashiach comes. Life changed. At this point, no nevuah, we don't know what Hashem wants from us. People live very rough lives. They don't know what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants from them sometimes. They go through tremendous service, and it gets quite difficult. Now, if you have a good eye, you go read through the Megillah from the beginning to the end, and you see a storyline, you see what's going on, you see that Hashem is still running the show behind the scenes. He's there with us. You put a little of your own thought in, and you come to the recognition that, we're still here. Marshall was still watching me. The Vilna Gaon gives his famous marshal how he had a king and a prince, and the prince did something wrong, so the king had to send them out into the wild, send them lost, but he sent servants behind him to follow him around to make sure he's okay. So a bear comes along, the servant comes out of the woods, shoots him down. And then he goes a little further, something else comes along, and the prince says, I thought I was exiled, but now I see there's someone still connected with me. And this brings to the tremendous connection that we have. We understand on our own accord. If we understand our own accord that Rebbeinu Shalom is still with us, that came through the Nes Purim. Rebbeinu Shalom gives us the Torah Shabbat Peh. It's not so clear today. When Torah Shabbat Peh came out, I said over when I was by Yesh, when Torah Shabbat Peh came out, who were the first ones to fight us? The Christians. Then you had the Saddukim. Then you had the Muslims. It's all based on our Torah. They all come from our Torah. Before then, the Torah Shabbat was there, and you did Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah, you go to China, they do Avodah Zarah, find out what it is. But it has nothing to do with the Torah. After we get a little closer, the black and white becomes gray. This is what the Torah says, and maybe the Torah means something else. Saddukim came along, you mean this is what the Torah means? No, the Torah means something else. And the Torah Shabbat battle got closer to home. We have to figure out ourselves what's right from wrong. In order for us to figure out ourselves what's right from wrong, it has to come from us. We need the Torah Shabbat Peh. We need the Torah to be within us. Rabbi Yaakov Hillel said that when it came even further down, when we're in today's goals we're in today, it's even closer to home. Call it evolution. Call it, the world we live in today, where people don't even know right from wrong anymore. Things which you think are wrong, everybody thinks are right. Things which you think are right, people think are wrong. The true Torah Ashkafa, how could be such a thing? It's not proper. It's very hard to understand. It's closer to home. We need Torah Sakabbalah. That's what he said. You need even the Torah Shabbat Peh. We need a Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. We need Lomdus. We have to become real Lamdanim. We have to become deep thinkers. We have to really get down to the bottom of it. What's right and what's wrong. The further we go away. And the further we go away, the more of our own input is needed. The more of our own input is needed, the bigger power Torah Shabbat Peh has. This is what Tzaddik HaKohen says. So just to wrap up and answer some of the questions we started with.
How does it answer with the thing with the nace by Har Sinai?
How does it answer with the nace and Har Sinai?
And then the nace.
So Leshem says. So what the Leshem is saying like this: when the Torah, when the Rebbeinu Shalom is doing the miracles, he doesn't do it for every shmo that's walking around. He doesn't do it because you want a miracle. Rebbeinu Shalom's not going to do. Klal Yisrael needs to be saved. I'll reveal myself. I'm going to save him. I'm going to split the Red Sea. But it's open. But when Torah Shabbat Peh was given, Abaya became Abaya, and Rava became Rava, and the Torah was given within them. That's what it means. Memshalta, the rulership of Torah was given, and these people, there were no Nevi'im anymore. A Navi, you had a question, he asked Hashem, Hashem told him the answer. Now where do you go? Chazal say nitnul nevuah from the Nevi'im, and was nitna, was given to the Chachamim. How was it given to the Chachamim? They don't have nevuah, but they get it out of the Torah. They get it out of the Torah by their own work. So they become the Baalei Torah. They become the people that have. Now you have to be a great person for this. You can't be doing any sort of averus on one hand and think that you're going to become to be koine and acquire the Torah. You have to be a great person. Rabbi was put his hand in the fire, he didn't get burned. He was a great person, but he had the power of the Torah. It was given to him. It was given to him, and if it was given to him, he was able to split the sea. He was split the sea. He was in control. He was in control. The Gemara says there were 3 keys given over, right? Eliyahu Navi, the tree of rain wasn't the key of rain wasn't given over to Eliyahu Navi. So certain things where children weren't given over to have children. Today, you go to a chacham, and a person's having a hard time. He goes to the chacham gives him a bracha, and there's plenty of stories. 9 months later, the power of Torah was given. And it's not just for the Chacham, it's for everybody. Everybody has within them the ability to bring out the best of them. And the best of them is Torah Shabbat Peh. And this was given. This is why by Purim, at that time, they accepted Hada Kiblua, they re-accepted the Torah. They re-accepted the Torah on Purim time. This is a great simcha. This is the greatest joy. This is what carries us through all the generations. What carries us through the generations is the Torah Shabbat Peh that we have it today. The only reason we're in existence today, the only reasons why we're physically sitting in this room today, through all the pogroms, through all the inquisitions, through all the
Holocaust.
Yeah, the Holocaust, and going back, Crusades, Klal Yisrael got beaten and this. What kept us around? Go through history, you can read Beryl Wine's books if you ever have a chance to read them. You go through the history, you see how the course of history was parallel to the course. If you go take an English history course, right? So you see the course of the countries were governed by the kings. There were many changes that took place, which was based by the kings or the officials of the time. If you go through the Jewish history, the course of history was navigated by the Chachamim, by the Gedolim in those times. And the rebirth, there's no question, the rebirth of Jewry in Eretz Yisrael and in America was due to in a main part, a lot of people were going off the derech. There's no question. When I saw the Yaldei Teiman, what was going on there? A lot of people were off. But it was due to the battle, and a few years will be gone. In America, look what happened in America. Assimilation started earlier. It started in the 1800s and the 1700s. They say when they came over to America, they threw the tefillin overboard. Right? The Hudson River is full of people's tefillin, but yet. I would say from my grandmother. My grandmother was born here in the United States. Her parents came over, one before World War I, one after World War I. What was going on in those days was not to be believed. I mean, you couldn't keep Shabbos. People couldn't keep Shabbos. So to keep Shabbos, you had to live in a basement and climb through the window to get in. You had a little room through a window. Couldn't get in. I mean, you couldn't keep Shabbos. And today we don't have these problems. But then they had it. And the people that stuck to the Torah, people that stuck to it, that's what brought us through. He said, as my great-grandfather said, all his brothers said, well, you're keeping Shabbos, go back to where you came from. They're not here in America. What happened to their families? Who knows? Assimilated. Nothing left from them. What happened to his family is hundreds of great-grandchildren. So this is a constant thing that goes on through the generations. The power of a Jew to say, I'm keeping the Torah, comes from within. It doesn't come from above. Hashem says you have to keep the Torah. It comes from us. It comes from our personal connection to Torah. This was nitbut nevuah from the Nevi'im was given to the Chachamim, and we follow through the generations. This is the power of Torah Shabbat Peh, and this we acquired Hadar Kiblu b'Me'ach HaShverish, and that's the great simcha that we have. This is what we got after the Nes Purim, from the Nes Purim. This is what we got. This is the Torah Shabbat Peh. I'll just end off with one thought. That because we're not at the same level that they were back then, because of that, that's why the Mordechai made that the Torah is so available to us. It's so available to us. Throughout the ages, it became more and more available. Torah Shabbat Peh became more and more available to us, to give us an opportunity to attach ourselves to us. Everybody, where they're holding, could link up, hook up, Skype up, or so lots of ways to get involved in shiurim and learning and growth. Because Rosh is making it available to us, because it has to come from us. It's not going to come from him. It has to come from us. And the only way it can come from us if we put our work into it. And we're Mekabel on ourselves the Torah. Just like Shavuos, we're Mekabel the Torah, the word of Hashem. On Purim, we're Mekabel the Torah Shabbat Peh. With joy, with a love. This is it. This is what we want. This is us. This is me. What would a person do and not do for himself? This is the Ava of Torah Shabbat Peh. I hope we got something from this.